I will read two state policies, one by one place before the Constituent Assembly by the State Department, and the other the speech of Sardar Patel, where they spelled out the policy. This was a departure from that policy. And departures are not permanent. Can never be permanent. The policy is states, that is the Indian states and the British provinces under the Government of India Act should be brought at par, at equal level. That was the policy. And placed in October and November 49, just before the adoption of 370. So 370 was a departure being made because of circumstances, political pulls and pressures and so, and the circumstances which I narrated. So therefore, you have to therefore consider this as a continuing process which was meant to be terminated, and 75 years is a pretty long time for federalizing Jammu Kashmir at par with other states. That means that the power was rightly vested in the president and was properly exercised by them. It was not that in 1957, one may ask not that if my contention is accepted, then immediately after dissolution of JKCA, the president could have terminated. Yes, he could. It's a high political policy. It's an act of state. There were some states where forces were sent. That can't be questioned, that how Hyderabad was brought, how Junagadh was brought in, how a referendum was done. All those things are in the past and they were act of state. Mr. Sibal said, had there been another route,
An act of state is executive, right?
So executive, nothing prevents the Constituent Assembly from putting a power in the Constitution itself. So that, it is what was expected was that the Constituent Assembly, when it sits, it might well take a decision that please align us at par. The recommendation, part of it, the proviso, was merely to enable the JKCA to look at the advantages of the federation.
Trivedi, what was pointed out by the other side was,
yes,
when you frame the constitution, when you enact the constitution, then you're probably exercising constitutional power. What happens thereafter will be either in the realm of legislative power or the executive power. If we go by this.
So that's not right, Manoj. And that's my contention. They are not correct in that. It's not always, then 368 is not purely legislative and executive.
So you are equating 368 also to constitutional power. Yes, by saying that it is also a constitutional power. That way it is. Whenever you will be amending the constitution, you will be making changes in the constitution. But that exercise cannot be equated with the constitutional power for the simple reason. Constitutional power has the power to go from a scratch, from 0 point.
Not necessary, a mandatory power is constituent.
Yes, a mandatory power is certainly
so this
there.
Is a mandatory, you can much wider.
No, the question is not that. The question is, can the mandatory power under 368 be taken to the level of constitutional power as to go?
I never said that, Manoj.
You're not saying that.
No.
So what you are saying, therefore, they're really speaking, is jurisprudentially there won't be any difference.
There would be, the nature of power is completely different. That has to be realized. An executive power of the president is, for example, he recommends financial bill should be passed. That's a different kind of power.
That's correct.
So the president has a whole lot of role to play under the constitution. All roles are not at par. For high policy reason, this was given, this proviso to 368 is because the government, of India did not want, to go through the route of 368 every now and then. So if you want to, do away with 370, go to 368, then 2/3 majority, and then maybe somebody will say state is affected, so ratification by majority of states. So an easier, because the policy was to put at par. Therefore, it was, since the policy is given, alignment is the question. Alignment may take such time, my lord, as the circumstances permit. Nobody can predict how much time it will take. So, and this was provided here. Keep also one more aspect in mind, my lords. The framers of the constitution knew that a president of India is a continuing office. It will not lapse after any point of time. Whether it is part of basic structure or not. But even if it is not, nobody expected that the President of India office, high office in which the executive power vests, will vanish. So it was a continuing power. They also knew that Jammu Kashmir Constituent Assembly is an ephemeral institution. So they had two institutions, one permanent, one ephemeral. They are being brought into a relationship in 373 with a notwithstanding. So now not an ephemeral expiry of an ephemeral institution impacts the permanent institution of the president. That can never happen, my lords. If that were the intention, what was so difficult in 370 to add a few words that with the expiry, my lord, of the JKCA, if I may use this short JK Constituent Assembly, then, my lord, the main power will also lapse. The framers are very well aware of cessation of certain exercise of power after certain period. Be it 356, 352, ordinance making power, place in 6 months. If you don't place, it will lapse. Our lords have dealt with Lord Krishna Kumar Singh. Even 249. So there are so many lords situations. They are aware. They are casting the languages of different provisions with this expression that it will cease for different reasons in different cases. Why is it that they are refraining here? Certainly, my lords, it could not have been in their mind, my lord, that this will remain for all times to come, my lord, till eternity, my lord. The relationship of Jammu and Kashmir, my lord, state as a federal unit with India will remain different for no reason whatsoever. And as my lords had put a query to them, if I may just adopt that. Supposing, my lords, through the route of with concurrence and consultation, my lord, everything has been adopted. Why do we want to keep this relic? For sentiments, my lords. So it has to go someday, my lord, somewhere. And what is it that remains today, my lord? It may not be a shell, but close to a shell. And my learned friend Zafar Shah said, my lord, we have sentiments. Yes, we understand that. If I live for too long, my lord, with a particular provision, my lord, there will be sentiments, my lord. No difficulty, my lord. We appreciate that, we honor that, we respect that sentiment. But equally, just a human life, my lord, the time comes when you have to bury it. We have emotions, we have sentiments, but we have to bury, my lord. We have to cremate. So that's what, my lord, is in mind, my lord, that please, therefore, my lord, your lordships are acting as a part of a constitution making process. This adjudication is not apart from, my lord, completely disjointed and disregarding that process. Host of other things your lordships have already noted, my lord, this temporary here, temporary that. They say marginal note, somebody says temporary is only object, my lord, not the time period. This is not the way, my lord, the lordships in Bombay have construed. Sometimes your lordships take help of the marginal note, sometimes your lordship doesn't, my lord. But here, my lord, the conglomeration of 370 along with all other provisions originally there. I'm excluding the special provisions. All the provisions were temporary. Somewhere, my lord, time period was fixed, somewhere time is not fixed. But all intended to lapse. There are temporary provisions elsewhere also, like 306. So they are meant to go. Don't hang on it. Nobody hangs on a body which is just a shell. It causes only those some. I can understand people with good intention. They respect that emotion. There will be a host of other people who will take advantage of that, and in Kashmir they have taken it. There have been time and time again calls for plebiscites, independence. In fact, in 1964, just before his death, the Prime Minister Nehru, he had sent Sheikh Abdullah, brought him back as Chief Minister, sent him to Pakistan with a message that you be a bridge between India and Pakistan. And he was going to POK when Nehruji died. Unfortunately, he expired. So I had to return from here. But I mean, that emotion which is created at that time in 52, 53, why will a person be kept in a jail for 18 years long? He suffered, yes. He contributed to India, but he stood also with his own emotions. We all respect all those emotions. Nobody condemns any emotion in human life, in a nation's life, in a state's life. These emotions arise and die. So, for emotional reason, 370, I think it's time to bury, and that's what was intended when the framers brought in 370, and that's how it is. 373, therefore, not CO has to be upheld. Now look at it once more. We are like 7 men and the blind men and the elephant. So we are all putting our perspective before lordships, and lordships. We will kindly receive that and find out what is the whole, integrated whole. Seven is the smallest question. The lordships have been putting a question. So far as JK Constituent Assembly is concerned, there are only two provisions. 372 and 373 proviso. In one, JKCA doesn't come. As my Lord Justice Khanna had pointed out, it is between executive and exec. The president and the government of state. Now kindly see, why is there, my Lord, a difference between the language of 2 and 3? The first point is not that the proviso refers, when it refers to Constituent Assembly of the state, it refers to clause 2. Recommendation of the Constituent Assembly of the state referred to in clause 2 shall be necessary. Now, Sampath Prakash has very positively held that is dissolved, matter ends, power continues. Now, it is the same Constituent Assembly which is contemplated in the proviso, not different. So, on a parity of logic, my Lord, that judgment, the reasoning of that judgment, of course, they were dealing only with 2, not 3. So, in that sense, it is different. But the logic on parity, my Lord, is available. And therefore, I submit, my Lord, that concludes the matter virtually. Sub-article 2 is dead, defunct, but sub-article 1 continues. That is Sampath Prakash. Likewise, proviso is defunct. The main part continues. And my Lord Justice Kaul has, my Lord, in that Shah Faisal case, applied stare decisis. The doctrine of stare decisis, of course, is not an absolute principle. But in this case, an attempt was made. Without success. Now that apart, not kindly see why 2 says if the concurrence of the government of the state referred to in 1B2 or second proviso be given before the Constituent Assembly for the purpose of framing the Constitution of India is convened, it shall be placed for such decision. The word is decision here, that's right. Why it is decision there and recommendation here? Perhaps not, there is one reason which I wish to place, and if it commends to your lordship. It is decision here because, my lord, what is being considered by the assembly is the concurrence given by the government of state. Concurrence, if your lordship comes back, my lord, to the first to B2. Such other matters in lists with the concurrence of the government of the state. The concurrence is of the government of the state. And the decision is to be given with regard to the concurrence. No decision is to be given with regard to the order passed by the president. The presidential order, whether it collapses because of the decision, is a question which is not arising, hypothetical question. But the decision is JKCA is a superior body to the government of the state. Therefore, the word decision has been used. When an order passed by a subordinate goes before the higher authority, then it is either a decision or an approval. The concurrence of the government of state of JK goes before the JKCA. Therefore, the expression used is decision. But when it comes to the proviso to 3, the president is not subordinate to the JKCA. He exercises the sovereign democratic power of the Republic of India, which is constituent in nature. There are 2 constituent powers in play, one superior, one subordinate. Therefore, the expression is used as a recommendation. A recommendation of a inferior authority, when it goes before a superior authority, can never be binding. That also if the body is a temporary body.
So according to the word recommendation in the proviso, refers to the existence of a recommendation and not the nature or the content of the recommendation.
That's right. Because I'm putting a question to myself, not supposing the JKCA had recommended a particular provision or particular structure for the executive or for the legislature of the state. Or let's say suspension of fundamental rights. Will it be open to the president or not as a constituent body to say no? How can it be forced upon him? Had he said you will suspend, delete part 3 for Kashmir? Hypothetical. Part 3.
Hello. For about a little while, there's a matter before Justice Kaul sitting in a 3-judge bench. That won't take very long, and thereafter we'll resume immediately. Then, as soon as that
5-10 minutes.
immediately,
We'll be here. We'll be here.
as soon as that bench is over, we'll continue.
How much time will you take more?
My lord?
How much time more?
Oh, that's what I said in the beginning, was the most
Where it
difficult
comes down
question. I would say, my lord, stop me when I'm repeating, my lord.
No, Mr. Dwivedi, don't put that burden on us. I can't ever exercise
We
that.
have been,
My lord, it's a
We leave it to the conscience of the lawyers to be satisfied that you have made your points in
I
every
won't
case.
take, my lord, that I'll try to be, my lord, sir. And we are, our batsmen are very few, my lord, so we will
I followed Mr.
But none of your batsmen are tail-enders. They're all top order batsmen. See,
My lord, we would like to believe.
Accepting me,
Especially when it comes from your lordship at 4 p.m.
all right, after Mr. Dwivedi, it will be Mr. Giri and then Mr. Jetnani. Guru. Don't say how much time. We'll just.
This is what we are for those we are four petitioners who have filed.
So please do adjust time so that
4% marginal-
by lunch tomorrow we'll be done with this side.
I'll take 1 hour because I'm appearing in one inspection.
Sorry,
Sorry.
not possible.
Take half an hour.
No. So you just come down from 1 hour to half an hour in 5 seconds.
Because we are dealing with an argument spreading 10 days, my lord.
My lord, we have, my lord, say, could it be possible, we'll of course, my lord, curtail our time for tomorrow, but your lordships are giving us time till 1 o'clock. There are some persons, my lord.
We have taken only 4 days, my lord.
I thought he said he's going to get them till Friday.
The learned attorney general says doctrine of proportionality should be applied.
8 to 9 days.
No, more than that.
8 to 9 days.
More than that.
10 days, right?
10 days.
He probably has to go off somewhere.
Today we are on the 12th day.
The
20 minutes each.
the petitioners are given 2 days time for rejoining your lordships.
They already in the first round.
So what we can do is that Mr. Dwivedi, we'll give you half an hour tomorrow. Then Mr. Giri,
not
Mr. Jetmalani and Mr. Guru Krishna Kumar, 20 minutes each. So 1 hour between the three of you. Half an hour for Mr. Dwivedi.
Give us at least half an hour. And we want